welcome to the Operations Committee. My name is Jeff Horner and I'm the chair and representing air ambulance providers.
And I'll go ahead and do a roll call attendance if that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Dave Craddock. Scott Houchin.
City Fire Department present.
Tina Nieto. Cassie Caldera.
Hey, Tina Nieta's here. I'm sorry, I'm in the field right now. But I'm here for quorum.
Okay, thank you. Cassie Caldera. Will Hiller.
Present.
Dave Jednick.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, perfect.
Olivia Madrigal.
Here.
And Jeff Horner.
Present.
Okay, and then any guests on the line if they would like to introduce themselves?
Devin Haggett for Fire.
Kimberly Hernandez, EMS Agency.
Deborah Hopgood, EMS Agency.
Teresa Rios, EMS Agency.
Steve Brooks, EMS Agency.
Ben Hitchcock, MRCS.
I believe that's pretty much it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kimberly. Okay, moving along to item number 2, public comment. Any member of the public may address the committee for a period not to exceed 3 minutes on any issue not on the committee's agenda. The committee will listen to all communications, but not take any action. Do we have any public comment? Okay, hearing none, thank you. Moves us along to agenda item 3, approval of past ops meeting minutes. Kimberly, can we, as we've done in previous meetings, lump the 3 of these together for approval? And
Yes. Yes, you can.
Great. Do we have a motion for approval of the minutes for the November 10th subcommittee meeting minutes and then the special meetings that we had for on December 9th and January 5th?
I moved to.
I'll second that.
I just want to confirm the motion was by Dave and the second was by Olivia.
Yes, Dave made the motion.
Okay.
And then do we need to do a roll call?
Yes, I'll do a roll call vote.
Okay.
Scott Houchin.
Aye.
Tina Nieto.
Aye.
Will Hiller.
Aye.
Dave Jednick.
Yep.
Olivia Madrigal.
Aye.
Jeff Horner.
Aye.
Okay.
So the motion passes for approval of the past meeting minutes. Moving on to item number 4, correspondence. It says none on the agenda. Do we have any other correspondence?
No, we did not.
Okay, thank you. And moving on to item 5, reports, EMS agency updates. Teresa Rios.
Thank you. I lost my notes, but let me start by updating the committee on the amendment to extend the current ambulance agreement was approved by the board yesterday. The amendment included a substantial rate adjustment that was comprised of 2 pieces. One is a regular annual rate adjustment that is prescribed in the agreement and normally doesn't require board approval. The second one was an extraordinary rate adjustment requested by AMR to cover wage increases for their EMTs, paramedics, and dispatch staff. It also included an extension to the term to June 30th of 2025 and modifications to various sections of the agreement. Then I'm also happy to report that Deborah Hopgood has accepted the position of Management Analyst 3. I apologize. My gardener just showed up. So if you guys are hearing background noise, that's what it is. we completed the recruitment just in December. Deborah has accepted the position, and I'm very excited to have her join in this new role. And I'm sure she's looking forward to working with all of you in her new capacity. The agency still has 3 vacant positions. We are still assessing the needs of the agency to make sure that we feel, what decisions we make when it comes to filling those positions. The other update is that the agency submitted a grant application to the state for some reimbursement of costs related to training of personnel for the administration of COVID vaccine. We don't get a lot of grant opportunities, so when we saw it, Deborah put this together, work with the agencies to gather the information needed. So as soon as that is approved, we will, disseminate that, distribute those funds. We continue to work on our policy and protocol process, the 2022 cycle. We reported before that we are trying to revamp different internal processes. That's a big one for us, and because we know it affects our stakeholders a lot. And so we are trying to implement changes in this cycle, but I think that more changes will be implemented in the 2023 cycle. So the changes that we implemented this time focus more on increasing stakeholder input. In addition to the regular public comment period, we had 2 special meetings, one with the CQI tag, and because some of the policies and protocols that were revised were related to trauma, we also brought them to the TQIC subcommittee. We also held public meetings via Zoom, and we posted the announcements on our Facebook page and our website, but we also did a direct mailer to all of our EMTs and paramedics on our distribution list. And those who attended gave us positive feedback. And so we're taking notes from the information that you provide to us and anything that we can gather so that we can continue to fine tune this process. The goal for the 2023 cycle is that we will start earlier. The internal process will start earlier so that we can review all the policies and protocols that will be up for review for 2023 earlier than before, so that we can release them with our suggestions earlier than even we did this year. So it will allow us to extend the comment period. It will allow us to extend the review period, and we will definitely continue to make the public sessions available. At this time, we're probably thinking maybe having 2. One when we first release the policies and protocols with our suggestions for revision, and then once all of the comments have come back and our responses have been drafted, probably we'll do another set of sessions, something that we're considering. But thank you everybody who has provided the feedback. We really appreciate it. I don't have my notes with me, but I think that was all of my updates. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Teresa, for that report. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Teresa? Okay, very well. Hearing none, we will move along with the agenda to old business. The agenda shows none. So item number 7, new business. First item under new business is AB 361, the requirements for remote meetings. Kimberly?
For the subcommittee to consider findings pursuant to AB 361 for the operations subcommittee to meet remotely, and that the COVID-19 state of emergency is still in effect. So we would need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I will second.
Okay, let me do a roll call vote. Scott Houchin,
Aye.
Tina Nieto,
Aye.
Will Hiller,
Aye.
Dave Jednick,
Aye.
Olivia Madrigal,
Aye.
Jeff Horner.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, very well, the motion carries. And so that takes us to the next special meeting dated for Wednesday, February 9th at 9:30 a.m. The next item under new business will be Laguna Seca Race Participant Death Protocol. Do we have somebody presenting on this item?
This was brought to us by, and I don't believe he's on, but Chief Craddock from Monterey County Regional Fire asked us to add this item for discussion. Let me bring up the protocol. Hold on a second. Can you see the Laguna Seca Raceway Race Participant Death Protocol? Okay. This was included in your agenda packet. So he brought this up again. He wanted to discuss it. He recommends that the document be revised to update the signatures so that the revised copy can be included in operational briefings so that all providers out at Laguna Seca are under the same expectation. And he's also recommending that it be given a re-examination date. The copy he had provided to us initially was from 2007. We were able to locate a copy that was updated in 2014, but it does not have a revision date or to revisit it to have it re-examined. We believe that Monterey County Sheriff's Office created this protocol. But before we reached out to them, we wanted the group to review and discuss so that the agency could bring any questions, concerns, or suggestions to or the document was updated.
Great, thank you, Kimberly. If anyone on the in the group has had the opportunity to review the document, does anybody have any comments or suggestions initially?
This is Will Hiller from AMR. I agree with Craddock that it should just be updated. The language to me looks comprehensive and still looks up to date.
What are we proposing for updating?
I'm not.
According to what Chief Craddock had given us, he did not recommend any revisions, more just that it have new signatures since, like I said, the one he had given us was from 2007, so it was pretty outdated. This one's from 2014. I also spoke to Roberta Christie at Laguna Seca, and she also had requested at some point, she had reached out to the sheriff's office to get this updated as well, because there's a lot of new management. I mean, this still has Scramp on there. So Chief Craddock suggested that the document be updated with new signatures and also have a revision date added to it, so that not a revision date, a re-examination date, so that it can be looked at every, so like, let's say every 4 years it's revisited just to make sure it's still current and adequate for the needs, and that the signatures are updated.
I'd like to make two suggestions. First, I agree with the revision and updating with the continuous, review cycle. I think that's warranted. Also, I'd like to suggest, I guess I got three suggestions. One, that we incorporate an EMS policy tied specifically to this, so there's no confusion or misunderstanding by field personnel, because I've never seen a document like this. I've been doing this for 37 years. So to have a different policy in play for our pre-hospital providers, I think it'd behoove us to have one outlined by the EMS authority. And third, in bringing this back, is there any, since I've never seen this, is there any other policies throughout the state with regards to racetracks that we could look at to just make sure that we've incorporated the most recent and latest and greatest? Thank you.
Thank you for those suggestions, Dave. I've notated all of those, and we can definitely look into everything you suggested.
That's great. Thank you, Dave. And I concur as well with Dave and Will and Chief Craddock in that, revising, updating, and just ensuring the relevance of the document is a prudent thing to do. So Kimberly, is that something the EMS agency will take forward then and take back to the stakeholders and the respective departments that have signed here and have for their review and for the update?
Yes, so I'm gonna try and get a hold of Monterey County Sheriff's Office and start discussions with them about getting it updated. And we will discuss internally the suggestions made, and we will update the subcommittee at the next meeting.
I'd also like to add, just by the initial, well, I got some feedback, just by the initial observation, if an ambulance is pulling somebody deceased off the track and it's determined they are deceased, is there any mechanism in play for like staging the decedent somewhere so that ambulance could be taken out of service for hours, half a day? So is there something in there that we can fine tweak that would allow for the removal of a decedent from the ambulance? Because this comes across so infrequently, but if we're going to have a specific protocol for the racetrack, we may want to incorporate some language that prevents the taxation of a unit, because they're already in short supply.
Okay, I've taken that note down. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
I have the same concern. It's Devin. I was looking at section 2, no victim of medical or traumatic arrest on the racetrack shall be declared dead, which I think that goes against what our current policies are. So same thing that Dave talked about, maybe a little grammar or some kind of revision for that.
Well, based on that, Devin, just, paragraph 2 contradicts our, field pronouncement policy. So
that's exactly what I'm saying. Yes.
So I think we need to blend the Monterey County pre-hospital protocols in with the needs of the racetrack so that we can all be on the same page.
Okay, great comments. Thank you. Anybody have anything else on this item? Yeah, I'm wondering, Kimberly, if there's any delay in the coroner's response, to Dave and Devin's points, if it would be possible or an option to, turn the descendant over to maybe the medical control. There's, on these race events, there's oftentimes, the medical building that's occupied with a physician and nurse there, just to explore the options of what the disposition can be of the body versus being left in the back of an ambulance for a prolonged period of time, potentially.
Steve has his hand up.
Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, race medical would be the place, and quite honestly, that should be included in this document, because this document, after the patient's placed in the ambulance, is silent as to the rest of the process for that for the body. And then the conflict with our other policies, have to look to see if there's something that's not covered, but for the obvious death in our determination of death policy, decapitation, incineration, already covered in this death protocol. And then the others, as far as determination of death, usually require a little bit more examination, which is also covered in this, that the patient's not determined dead until they've been examined, and the examination can be moved out, out of view of the bystanders. The only issue that really is of a concern would be that you're moving a dead body potentially, and the coroner's bought off on this, so they're okay with it.
Yeah, I totally agree with Steve. Just to add, maybe down the road, this document should also reference the Monterey County EMS protocol policies and protocols with regards to determination of death. So that way we've doubled back and covered all loose ends.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that, Dave. And thank you, Steve. Anybody have anything else on this item?
I have a comment, maybe just a random question, but
No such thing.
In point 5, it says like the ambulance crew and track personnel shall make every effort to cover the body and position vehicles in a manner that best conceals it from public view. If there's like a structural map or a map of like, you know, the racetrack and a place, a designated place for that ambulance to be that would meet that criteria, I think it'd be helpful just to attach, you know, where and that expectation would be met. It's just a comment. I think it'd be helpful.
Hi, this is Tina. Hey, can we ask them, so policing has changed. I know this is an older one that was signed, but they actually have homicide tents. That way you don't have to be positioning vehicles and stuff like that. Maybe ask the racetrack to purchase one and just.
Sorry, Tina, I'm not sure if it's on my end, but you were cutting out.
I couldn't hear a word you said, Tina. Sorry.
Was anybody else able to make out what Tina was saying?
This is Will Hiller from AMR. I think what Chief was expressing is maybe lobbying the Laguna Seca track to purchase some sort of covering or a tent, a homicide tent, I believe was her term.
Oh, yeah, that I was thinking the same thing.
Hi, this is Tina. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Maybe lobbying them. The technology has changed, so there's actually what they call homicide tents, and the sole purpose is to be able to cover a deceased body without disturbing a possible crime scene.
Yeah, and I don't know. Adding on to Steve's comment with medical at the racetrack, do they have a designated area? Because to me, it seems logical that if there is a death on the track, there should be some like staging area for that, especially if they get placed in the. I mean, this is all looping back around. So, you know, is the track or the leaseholder of the track, are they responsible for any kind of, you know, area that mitigates, you know, death at the track kind of stuff?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of, Dave. Kimberly, do you have any insight on that, or is that something that we can circle back to the track administration with?
I can circle back with Roberta Christie, who's with WeatherTech.
Right.
They do have a medical building with a couple of beds in it. The only issue would be is if those beds were already taken with people in need of medical care rather than a temporary morgue type facility.
Well, I think I mean, we started off with a single piece of paper. I think we've intertwined the whole, you know, Oxford English Dictionary in here. So now, you know, we've got a couple different scenarios. You've got a death on the track. You've got a possible, you know, death of a bystander or, you know, what is it, a viewer. I mean, so how, you know, I don't know. I mean, I think AMR's got a better perspective and maybe regional with regards to working all the time. This doesn't happen frequently, but in the event that it does, what mechanisms are in place so that we can continue to function in our system? So it's all, again, it's all tying back around. So basically, you know, a homicide tent is, you know, is there a protocol for something that's on the track that's, you know, obvious death versus in the grandstands, you know, that kind of stuff. So I think this is a really, you know, a larger issue.
This doesn't address bystander death. This is a participant death, which you know is also taking into concern that there could be thousands of spectators as well as worldwide viewing audience for some of these events.
Yeah, my understanding is that the medical building, the medical staff, they were all dedicated to the track participants also, and that's why AMR is there, is for, you know, provider services to the public. So
Okay.
Two separate issues, but Dave, good point. You know, if the track already has something in place that can be utilized, then, you know, why reinvent the wheel? Maybe we could just expand upon that.
Yep.
And this is a will from AMR, and generally it's specific to the event. The larger the event, the more infrastructure they have, medically speaking, as far as the first aid, quote unquote, first aid tent or the truck bed trauma center that they bring out for the larger events.
Is there a similar protocol for the bystander death that happens at the raceway?
No, that'd probably just fall under the regular policies.
Sure, okay.
Okay, great. Good discussion. And Kimberly, I think there was some great feedback there that maybe we can circle back to again with the stakeholders in this and back to the track weather tech administration. So thank you for facilitating that. Anybody have anything else on this item before we move along? Okay, great. Thank you guys for the discussion. Good points. Moving along to the next item 8, announcement, and for the good of the order. Any member of the committee may make announcements or comments. The office may not discuss or take any action on any items raised during the announcements except to decide whether to place the matter on subsequent agendas. Does anybody have the for the good of the order?
I'm sorry, I have something for good of the order.
Sure, Dave.
First off, I want to thank the agency and all of our members and members of the greater committees for last year. I know it was a challenge, and you know, COVID's become the second adjective in every sentence, second word in every sentence that we've I think incorporated in our meetings. Two things. One, in the last 2 years, we've modified our responses to lift assist. I'm going back down that path. We've also modified our medical alarm calls, which I think is hopefully it's going to be a huge improvement to the system. Third, I'd like to look at in the future, and I know Sandra and I have spoken about this in the past, I'd like to look at and see if we can explore unknown medical as a complaint. And I know this is loosey-goosey. I just want to throw it out, see what your guys' feedback is. Basically, it's for a non-requested, EMS response, or non-requested by the subject, but an EMS potential response for an unknown medical. and I don't want to start off by saying, it should be this or it should be that. I just think when we look at the gravity and the risk versus reward assessment, I really feel like it would behoove us to explore possible code 2 responses to anything with unknown medical that has no confirmation. And I think, maybe Sandra can throw in her ideas, or if she has any at this time, or we can just discuss it offline or later down the road.
David, thank you for that. We definitely want to go down the road. When we started looking at changing the MPDS calculation, and we presented, Kimberly presented the results of that data, and we realized that there's still a pretty big bucket of calls that are in a very general medical category. And I think that's one of our goals, to start drilling down and looking to see where else we can make changes that are good for the system, just like the one that you mentioned. So we are looking forward to doing that. Yeah, the policy and protocol, COVID, and then more recently the policy and protocol cycle kept everybody pretty busy, and with us still being down some staff members, and we can tackle things as fast as we would like. But yes, and we would love to sit down with you and just hear more of your ideas.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. And no, I think anything we can do, I mean, that's what we should be constantly doing as a group, making the system better. And, we continually strive for that. And I think, there's nothing here that's off limits with regards to exploring. It's better to understand it rather than just scratch our heads and continue doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So I appreciate that.
Great, thank you for that, Dave, and thank you, Teresa. And for the group, is that something that we'd like to agendize for a future meeting for discussion, additional discussion? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'd like to, but I mean, if somebody,
Okay, yeah, I think that's fine. Kimberly, can we place that on as a future new business agenda item?
Yes.
and Kimberly, please don't stress about timeliness. If it's not happening right away, it's not a big deal. Let's just throw it out there and see where it's.
Well, and maybe like Teresa suggested, we can meet with you and just discuss in a little more detail on some of the things you're talking about. And then at the next meeting, we can update.
Perfect.
And David, and for the group, just so that you know, sometimes things we can do very easily because it can be a click of a button and we can crunch the data. Other times it takes more work for us because there's no one report that will help us accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. So we do have to do some manual work. Part of the goal is to do the PCR standardization project. I think that will help us in the future, but in the meantime, we work with what we have. We take one step at a time, and as long as we continue to move forward.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, great, thank you. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the order?
This is Will Hiller from AMR. I just wanted to express my condolences to Jeff and the CalStar team over the loss of one of their paramedics over the last week. Definitely Joey left an impact on the ground side as well, and we are feeling it over here also. And Jeff, our condolences to you and your crews.
Thank you very much for that, Will. We appreciate it. It wasn't an employee that was here actively working currently, but Joey DeAnda, 33 years of age, had been a flight paramedic with us a couple of years back. Had transitioned down to Santa Maria for a period of time, and then had taken a position as a paramedic firefighter for Santa Barbara Fire. Unfortunately, over the weekend, he was tragically killed in a skiing accident over at China Peak. So we're all working through that and trying to support one another and his family and friends as best we can. So thank you, Will, for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay. If nobody has anything else for the good of the order for the group, then our next regularly scheduled operations subcommittee meeting will be on Wednesday, March 9th at 1 p.m. However, again, we will have a very brief call-in meeting on February 9th at 9:30. Just to address the AB 361 continuation of remote meetings. Kimberly, is there anything else before we adjourn?
No, there is not.
Hey, I just noticed Craddock's on the call. Did Dave have anything to add? I don't know if he got on late or not.
Hi, Dave.
Yeah, I apologize. I got my times off today. So I missed the discussion on the death on the track protocol. So I feel bad about coming in kind of at the last minute. It wasn't my intention.
There was a good discussion. Dave, go ahead.
So Dave, we looked at it. We agreed that it needed to be revised. We found some dissimilar, language from our policies and protocols. So the EMS agency is going to take the document back, meet with the stakeholders, look at adding some language that ties the document into our county hospital policies and protocols as well, and subsequently try to minimize any taxation of units with a decedent in it at the racetrack. So if there's, maybe you have experience in this, if we don't want somebody to be left dead in an ambulance for hours on hand while, we're waiting for a coroner or something like that. So however, all those pieces meld together, that's what we're looking for in the output.
That's super great. And again, my apologies for being late. This protocol originally came about after a death on the track in like 1999, where an IndyCar driver was deceased after an accident. And it was just a big mess with the race organizers, doctor saying one thing that conflicted, and it created a real mess for everybody. So that's kind of where the not moving the, not leaving the patient out on the track kind of came from. But yeah, if I could, catch up with EMS later to try and do my part to help, since I'm the one that brought it up. I just find it helpful, and it affects us and AMR both because we're involved in special events, and sometimes the race promoters are international or national bodies where they bring in their own doctors from outside the state and sometimes even from outside the country. And it's just very helpful to have that document that we can reference, and our officer in charge can go and talk to the medical people at the track, just to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page and trying to do the same thing. So I appreciate you guys bringing it to this committee.
It's an absolute perfect thing to bring to this committee.
Great, Dave. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for bringing this forward. It was good discussion, and I know Kimberly and the EMS agency has some action items to follow up on, and we'll be doing so. Look forward to the follow-up on our future meetings here as well with the subcommittee. So unless anybody has anything else, again, we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Looking forward to seeing everyone on March 9th for a regular meeting, and at least the members of the subcommittee calling in on February 9th at 9:30 so that we can vote and discuss AB 361 and continue the remote meetings. All right, thank you all very much, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, agency. Bye-bye.